Truth is making a comeback. America's Top Stories with Lisa K. Donner.
Well, the GOP may have taken a bit of a hit on Election Day, but so did the gun grabbers. As it turned out, those politicians with high NRA ratings were elected, and those rated poorly by the National Rifle Association got the boot. Joining me now is Liberty Nation's legal affairs editor, Scott Cosenza. Welcome, Scott.
Hi, Lisa.
So you viewed the election through the prism of the Second Amendment and wrote an article about what you saw. It was kind of an interesting premise. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, as the election results rolled in throughout the night, it seemed apparent to me, Lisa, that the NRA had a real big win on its hands, creating in the U.S. Senate a firewall against new gun control legislation. They were able to successfully oust a number of very anti-gun control senators and install in their places pro-gun senators. So I think it was a very big win for the NRA on election night.
All right, let's look at some of the Senate races. Let's begin with Florida.
In Florida, A-rated Rick Scott defeats Bill Nelson, F-rated. Bill Nelson wanted to be able to, he was for the proposition of removing firearm ownership rights from people who were added to the do not fly list. Wow. It's important to refresh everybody's memory that addition to the do not fly list did not come with any due process protections. So when faced with governing bodies and politicians that are hostile to gun rights, there's no guarantee that anybody would actually have a right to keep and bear arms if that was in fact the law. And gun owners saw that hostility and came out in support for Rick Scott, who was one of the enemy number ones of unofficial gun control spokesman David Hogg.
Okay, up next we have Texas.
In Texas, Beto O'Rourke, the out-of-state billionaires club, Lisa, spent mightily in Texas in order to secure a win for Beto O'Rourke and for gun control. Bloomberg and others donated and campaigned heavily in the state against Cruz, and the A-rated Cruz ekes out a win. You can only imagine if Beto O'Rourke wasn't such a strong gun control proponent, he may have won that race.
Let's go now to North Dakota.
Yes, Heidi Heitkamp, I think, suffered mightily from her opposition to Judge Kavanaugh's nomination. The NRA saw that as a sort of bellwether vote, and she suffered mightily for that.
How about Missouri?
Claire McCaskill, this gun control, again, Lisa, I think it's important to say, wasn't just an offshoot or tangential issue in this race. These races are highlighted because it was one of the main issues in the race. NRA President Oliver North went there to campaign for Josh Hawley and let the citizens know that if they wanted to keep their gun rights, they needed to send McCaskill home, and that's what they did.
And finally, Tennessee.
In Tennessee, I think is the funniest of all, Lisa, because there, Phil Bredesen, running against Marshall Blackburn, got in trouble not just for his gun control position, but his position on the ratings themselves. When he was governor of Tennessee, he earned an A rating from the NRA, but he's since turned that into an F rating, or excuse me, a D rating, because of his supports for gun control. And in a campaign commercial for this Senate seat, he said he was rated as an A member when he was governor. The misleading fact is leaving out that had turned into a D rating, and that shows you how important the rating itself is for these politicians and for Tennessee, and what happens when he's called on it. He's now not a senator-elect, and Marshall Blackburn is.
So summing all this up for Second Amendment people and people who believe in the right to keep and bear arms, what do you have to say to the gun grabbers in the final analysis?
Well, I think it is a big win for the NRA and for gun rights, and I think that no matter what happens in the House, fortunately for us who do appreciate holding these rights, that the Senate will be there to stop any encroachments on those rights for the time being.
That's Liberty Nation's legal affairs editor, Scott Cosenza. Thanks, Scott, for always keeping an eye out for our liberties.
Truth is making a comeback. Visit us at libertynation.com.